think that we've changed our mind throughout the year
I
that
want
we've been
babies,
married.
sweetie. Hey guys, so we thought it'd be a good idea to make a video about getting married young. I'm 23 and Kurin is 22. There's some controversy in the world about getting married young.
So we have been married officially for what, 13 months now? So
We're pros.
no, we're not. But I just want to say this disclaimer before we start this video. Not in any way, shape, or form are we trying to say that getting married young is for everyone or is the best idea for everyone. It's just what happened to us and it's our life and our story. And I also don't think that we're better than anyone because we got married young, but since we did get married so young, we do get a lot of questions and comments and concerns about us being married so young. So I went on my Instagram and had you guys ask me all of the questions that you wanted, and I have them all right here on my phone. So the first one, and it's one of the main questions, I got so many repeats, so I just chose the ones that were repeated the most. The first question was, why did you want to get married so young?
I wanted to get married so young because I have always wanted a family, even though our family is
2 dogs.
2 dogs right now. It is something that I've wanted. I love having a wife and I love having a home to come to that.
It's ours.
Yeah, it's ours, and it's the Emmerich household, and it's more than just me as the Emmerichs, you know?
I don't know if I necessarily have the perfect answer to this question. It was something that I always knew in my heart, I'm going to get married young. It was something that I always knew. And for me, I always dated for marriage. I didn't just date around and was trying to find my husband and who I thought would be a good fit for me. Aidan ended up being the one that I married. And then another question that's kind of similar is, what made you want to do it now instead of wait? Because we kind of knew that we already wanted to marry each other. So why not just continue to date or be engaged? Why do you have to get married now?
That is actually a really good question. Why now and not wait? I was impatient. I wanted to make Kurin mine. I wanted to make her an Emmerich and wanted to live the rest of my life with her. I didn't see a point in
just waiting.
Just waiting.
What's the point? If you can get married now and start your life already, why not? I know people ask, why rush or why wait? Why not? What's the point of waiting? We're gonna be dating or engaged no matter what, so why not be married? This is gonna sound really harsh, but I told Aidan before we hit our 3-year mark of dating that if he didn't propose to me soon around our 3-year anniversary, that I was gonna break up with him. And it was because I didn't want to be wasting my time dating somebody who wasn't going to commit to me, because I was that serious about wanting to find my spouse, wanting to get married. So if he wasn't ready and if he didn't know for sure that I was the one, I said, okay, either we're gonna get engaged or we're gonna break up. And he proposed to me 1 month after our 3-year anniversary. There you go, ladies. I was harsh, but I didn't want to waste my time with somebody who was gonna be I don't know if you're the one. If you don't know if you want to marry me or not, then I don't want to be with you, you know? It was just, it's a waste of my time, because then I have to wait a year to recover from this relationship, and then I have to date someone for another 3 years or so until we got engaged, and then we'd be engaged for a year, and then we'd get married. And by that time, I'm in my late 20s, and it was just the clock was ticking in my head, and I was like, okay, you gotta make your decision, because what are we doing here? I was kind of harsh about that. Okay, so then with that, we'll go into the question of, was the first year as terrible as everyone says it would be?
Nope, not at all.
We both went from living with our parents to all of a sudden we're married and living with each other.
That was the only weird thing, really. Kurin and I were best friends when we got married, and I think that's one of the things that I would stress in getting married at a young age is make sure that they are truly your best friend.
We literally spent 24/7 together. Like whenever we could, we were spending time. Like Aidan's mom was complaining about how much he was gone away from the house because he was spending his time with me. So it's like, if you guys are already spending 24/7 together, like hello, might as well just be married and live together. But as far as our first year of marriage went, there was definitely rough spots for sure, and there's a lot of things you have to get to know about each other that, like, some things were shocking and like weird and like, what? You have that habit? Like that's weird, or whatever it may be. Like there were definitely negative things that we had to work through that we're still working through. But I really don't think that our first year of marriage was so insane and like horrible and crazy and the worst year of our lives. Like I don't think that at all. Aidan's mom would always ask me like, how does it feel to be married now? And I would always tell her it feels normal. Like I feel like for us there was no transition period. Like I never woke up next to him and was like, what the heck, I'm sleeping with someone else? Like I never had that feeling. So for me, it was just like an ease of transition. Next question. Was there ever a time where you were like, holy crap, I'm really doing this? Aidan probably had that.
I think I had that oh my goodness moment when Kurin walked down the aisle. I was like, oh no,
yeah,
here comes the waterworks.
Yeah,
because I cried like a baby that whole day. I never had any regrets about it, and I never was like cold feet.
Trying to think like if you really want to do it.
No, I was just like, okay, it's happening. Yeah. Like it's here.
I think for me, it took a while to sink in that I was even engaged. It's even like crazy for me to be like, I'm married. All of my friends say my boyfriend, my boyfriend, my boyfriend, and I'm like, my husband. And it's just, sometimes I think about it and it's like so weird to me still. To answer your question, I don't think either of us really had that. Easiest and hardest things as newlyweds. Okay, so I'll start this. I think the hardest thing for us, and this is very situational, we moved away from home. So we were a newly-wed couple.
On our own.
2 hours away from our family. And also, I moved in November and didn't get a job until mid-January. It was like no one was hiring in the winter months, and it was rough. Like I kind of started getting depressed because I was just sitting at home all day doing nothing, like trying my best to be applying for jobs, but it was hard. So I think those couple of months were hard on us, but that was very situational. That didn't really have much to do with like our actual marriage. And then the easiest thing I guess would just be the transition of becoming husband and wife. Like I said before, it just felt normal. Like it didn't feel weird at all.
Yes, it's hard to be married, but no, it's not hard to be married. It's hard in the sense of you absolutely have to put 110% into your marriage every single day.
Mm-hmm. If you move in with a roommate, like they always tell you, do not move in with your best friend because you will end up hating them. That's kind of the same with marriage because you are always with your best friend. So you really have to work on your patience, forgiveness, understanding. You need to take breaks from each other, hang out with other people, like without your spouse, things like that.
Having your alone time is huge.
Yeah.
The hardest thing I think was learning each other's habits and routines.
Like getting to know the things that you wouldn't know unless you lived with each other. Because you think you know a person 100% until you live with them and you're like, whoa, you are so different than I thought you were. So somebody asked, I got asked this a lot. Since you got married so young, do you want to wait to have kids? And at first, I think we were both very against having kids right away. We were both like 5 to 10 years, like we don't want kids at all. Like I worked in a daycare for 3 years. I've nannied for 4 different families. And at one point I was like, no, I would be happy. Like I would be fine if we never had kids. But to answer that question, I think within the next year, whether it be biological or foster to adopt, we will have a baby in our home. That's the answer to that.
So a year ago, my answer would have been completely different than it is now.
Yeah.
Because I was like, we should have kids when I'm 25 or 26.
No, you wanted like 28.
I'll be settled in my career.
Right. More financially stable, like all the good things that you need to become a parent. type of thing. But I agreed for a while. I was like, I am burnt out. Like, I didn't even want to become a nanny again because I was just burnt out with kids. That's all I've been doing since I very first got a job, is working with kids. And then I ended up becoming a nanny again, and it's just the best thing ever. I love the kids that I nanny for. And then my mind started changing a little bit, and I was like, I don't know. There's so many benefits to having kids young. Like, it's easier on the mom's body, like they're able to bounce back quicker. And not only that, like, our kids are going to be out of the house faster. Like, I know that sounds horrible, but me and Aidan will be
the young cool parents.
Yeah, and we'll be able to like retire early if we want and go travel. It's all about preference, and I think that we've changed our mind throughout the year that we've been married.
Sweetie.
So yeah. Pros and cons of getting married young. So I have 3 pros and 3 cons. I'm gonna start with the pros. The first pro would be you get to start your life as a married couple early. That's just a pro.
You get to grow up together.
Yeah, you get to grow up together. And then the second one goes into the first one. You get to form good habits together and break bad habits earlier, and you're not set in your ways yet. So when people are in their careers, they own their own homes already, they're having to merge 2 whole, already set in stone lives together. Like, they're already an independent adult doing their thing with their own habits, their own life, and then same with this other person. And so I think that's why the first year of marriage is so hard for most people, is because they're completely set in their ways already. The third one is you have a lot less baggage. Well, this is not necessarily true, but it kind of is. Like, the younger you are, the less baggage you're gonna have.
Obviously, neither of us have kids. We brought in a relationship.
Not that that's a bad thing or baggage at all. It's just a different situation.
Yeah, it makes the situation different. We didn't bring a ton of debt. We didn't bring in gambling habits, anything like that. Addictions.
Yeah, just habits and things that have already been formed. Our dogs are going. So the cons are, the very first one is lack of maturity in both sides, because we got engaged at 20 and 21, got married at 21 and 22. I'm gonna be honest, like, we're not the most mature, like, adult grown-up people yet.
But we're young.
We don't have like experience with finances and things like that. I mean, because we're so young. So I think that's definitely a con. Second one is tying into financial stuff. It's financial irresponsibility, because Aidan and I both came from living at our parents' house.
No overhead.
No bills. Literally, I had my car payment that was $180 a month. And then I was working 45, maybe more than that, hours, getting a ton of overtime, like being able to spend my money on whatever the heck I wanted to spend it on. And then going into, wow, now we have a mortgage, and now I have all of your bills mixed in with mine, and like, we actually have bills for once. It's hard not to just go out and buy the best new thing, and it's like, well, we have a mortgage, we have 2 dogs, we have to buy groceries. Like, there's things that come before the things that we want, where literally just a year ago we could have bought whatever it was we wanted that was in front of us. And then the last con that I have is you have unrealistic expectations. It's like a fairy tale, like for young kids looking at marriage, like, oh my gosh, like watching all of the wedding videos and things like that. It's just such an unrealistic expectation of what marriage is. So you go in with this expectation of, oh, I'm gonna get married to my best friend, we're gonna buy a house and dogs, and all of those things came true for us, but it's not a fairy tale at all. And a lot of people will look at our lives and be like, oh, you have it together, you have a house, you have cars, Aidan's in his career, you have 2 dogs, like, you're doing good for yourself. But it's not a fairy tale, people. I think it's the wedding and the whole idea of getting married, actually getting married, sorry, smacked you in the face, is the fairy tale. This is another question that I've actually changed my mind on recently, and I haven't actually talked about this with Aidan, so this will be like the first time I'm saying this.
Sweet.
But the question is, how did you know at this age that he was the one? And I'm actually just gonna read this devotional because it explains it way better than I can. And this is from like a Christian view, because we are Christians. God wants you to make the choice, so you decide like who you want your husband to be. You ask God if he or she is the one for you, while God is asking you if he or she is the one for you. So like we're asking God, but God is saying, no, this is your decision, you know? And then that's one of the beauty of being called God's child. He gave you the freedom to make choices. He's not a dictator who issues commands and you simply follow. God gave you the capacity to reason and to want, and as you walk with him closely, you begin to reason along the lines of his will and to desire what he wants. So I dare say, choose someone. Choose to love and to promise love. Don't let the weight of finding the one overwhelm you into living a life of fear. So then it goes on to say, like, I encourage you to pray for your spouse. And I just think that that devotional and that explanation of it is so real and raw and true. Because if you think about it, there was many times that my dad, he could have moved his career to Arkansas, to Hawaii, to wherever, and if we would have moved, I would have married somebody else. There's so many different people out there that could be your husband, and it's up to you to decide, you know? Like, it's not God saying, there's only one person, and if you miss that mark, you're doomed for divorce. Like, that is not a thing. Like, you could make it work with anyone as long as you both are equally yoked and you both have the same beliefs and things like that. That's what I think. So someone says the money. I didn't realize how much it was to get married until they started planning.
It's very expensive. You're not going to get around that.
Yeah.
It was very expensive, and my parents blessed us greatly.
I was gonna say, so my answer to this question is find the best deals. We got married at a venue that wasn't even a wedding venue. And then for our food, we asked our favorite taco truck guy if he would do it. And he was like, yeah, I'll do it for $600. I also think that since I didn't have any bills, like I was able to buy a bunch of the stuff that we needed, put down payments down, pay for things. Like we paid for our photographer out of pocket, which was a lot of money. There's ways around it, but we really couldn't have done our wedding without Aidan's parents because they paid for a lot of our wedding. So we were really, really blessed in that aspect. What did your friends and family think? Did you get a lot of support? Got support from my mom. I got support from my dad, but of course he was hesitant because he's my dad. Sorry if the camera or angle moved at all. I think it totally did, but
Our battery died.
our battery died and then our dogs were going crazy. Like on the surface and to our faces, people would be supportive, but again, we'd always get that same question, like, why now? Like, why not just wait until you're financially stable or whatever? And we had some people saying like, so when's the divorce gonna be? And it's like, thanks guys, like that's very encouraging. Like,
so my support was really kind of 50-50, split between home and work. I was very lucky to have a group of guys. These are all very supportive. And then the other side of that was my work life. I work construction, blue collar, and I feel like a lot of the guys in that industry are jaded towards marriage. They're all like, oh, it's a trap, don't do it, you're gonna hate it.
I just think that it's always the people who aren't married that have the most to say, or have never been married and are not in a serious relationship, or they're just dating.
Yeah, man, don't do
like,
it.
Why would you do that? Like, you're just gonna get a divorce and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I get it because we were so young and like, we were in a completely different place in life than our friends were. So like, yeah, we got negativity from people.
Honestly, I think most of the negativity came from people our age. They were in the sense of, why would you tie yourself down?
Yeah.
They wanted
like,
to
this
be...
is the best years of your life, why would you ruin it?
They want to be independent, they want to go out and do their own thing.
Like I said, like, we were in a completely different time in our lives than our friends were. So it was hard for them to understand it. That ties into, how did you ignore the negative comments? I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, like, none of the negative comments hurt my feelings, because they got to me. Like, they hurt my feelings. The negative comments came from people that I never thought would say those types of things. Like family and really close friends basically claiming divorce over our marriage that's not even a marriage
Yeah.
yet. Like, that is one of the most disrespectful things that you could say to someone, is divorce. The only thing you can do is ignore it, but it's like, it's hard because it's so personal.
Being offended is one thing and taking it to heart is another.
I definitely took it to heart, all the negative comments I got. How do you know when it's the right time, and what made you know that it was the right time? It's hard. It's different for everybody. Like, we just knew that it was the right time. He ended up getting...
I got an offer to move to Spokane.
Yeah, so he got a good offer around the same time that we were getting married, and then we were buying a house at the same time, and everything just aligned. So I think maybe that's how you'll know, is everything will align the way that it's supposed to. It was like every time we ran into a roadblock, it was just lifted. So I guess just when everything's going smoothly and everything's aligned, then that's the right time.
I think knowing the right time really comes down to the couple. I think that sitting down and having a serious conversation, sit down, write it out, be like, if you want to do this, let's do this, because marriage is the best thing ever. Like, I never thought that being married would be so great and so much fun and like such a great addition to my and Kurin's life.
Would you have done your wedding differently? Like, would you have waited till you were older, saved more? The only thing that we would have done differently, like, our entire day was perfect, like literally perfect. The only thing we would have changed was having a videographer, but it was gonna be like an extra $3,000 and I didn't want to fork it up. That is my biggest regret, is not having a video to look back on, because you start to forget. Like, you really do start to forget details. Okay, so our last question is, what do you want to say to the people who doubt your marriage solely because you guys are young? What I would say to that is that I totally understand why people have their doubts. Like, it's a 50-50% chance that we'll make it or we won't. There's kind of like a stereotype, especially for like young and married people. Like, we get hate about it on the internet and like stupid things like that because we're so young and married. I don't know, I guess I could say I get why people have their doubt, but again, like, I don't feel like I need to prove to others that my marriage is gonna last. I just know that we have a relationship with Jesus Christ, and he is literally the only way that we will be able to make our marriage work. Like, there's no other way. Like, if you don't put God in the center of your marriage and God be your number one and then your spouse be your second, you aren't going to be able to make it work. So God is supposed to be your number one, your spouse is your second, and then everything else just falls behind that. And I just feel like if we are keeping God in the center of our relationship and in the center of our lives individually, that's what's gonna help us make it through.
You have to be able to tell your spouse, you're not the most important thing in my life.
Yeah.
Because your spouse not going to get you to heaven.
It's temporary. Like, this is what's on earth. Like, our marriage is just earthly, and it's not going to transfer once we go to heaven.
Your spouse should prepare you to talk to God. At heaven's gates, when you are standing in front of God, your spouse should be like, okay, I prepared him for that moment.
Right. Like, we should be preparing each other for the moment that we are standing in front of God being judged. Like, did I encourage him enough? Did I push him enough? Did we pray together enough? Did we make the best financial decisions together? Did we give enough? There's so much more that we can be doing in our life and with our life. Like, there is so much more, and it's our job to be pushing each other to do that more in our lives. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and read our verse of the day. What?
Verse of the vlog.
Verse of the vlog. Okay, so this verse is very fitting to this whole entire video, and it's 1 Timothy 4:12. Don't let anyone look down on you because you're young, but set an example for the believers in speech, conduct, love, in faith, and in purity.
Well, that is our sit down about being young and married.
Answering all of your questions, concerns, thoughts, things like that. Remember, we are coming from a Christian standpoint, so viewpoint. We're coming from a Christian viewpoint, so our views may not be the same as yours, and that's totally okay, but we are sharing how we feel and how we see these things. So make sure that you guys subscribe, follow our social medias, Hit that bell button. We are uploading at least once a week. This week it will be twice since we did this sit down video. And if you guys have any suggestions or things you want to see on this vlog channel, go ahead, leave a comment down below and let us know what it is you want to see. And we'll see you guys in the next vlog.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.